From your local election headquarters, this is The Insiders with Dave Price.
So how much politics did you talk at the Thanksgiving table? That can be more stressful than which family member gets the final turkey wing. Well, Thanksgiving is past, so we are going to talk politics as usual this week. Now, Bob Vander Plaats is talking about a different politician these days, and he'll do it this week with a musical comparison. So what's the connection with legendary musician Bob Seger and former President Donald Trump? Vander Plaats explains it with a song, but first, a little history.
With Donald Trump, I've never endorsed him. Now, I voted for him twice, very open about that. When he wanted my endorsement after he got the nomination in 2016, I told him, I said, you don't need my endorsement, but I'll be a friend to you. I'll pray for you daily. I'll cheer you on when you do what's right. And I'll be a voice of accountability when you go outside the bounds.
Now, he also said some stuff about you, got a little personal back
yeah,
then,
he
right?
did, but I won that Twitter war. But I think what he did is he respects me. He respects me from the standpoint is I will speak the truth to him. It's not always going to be what does he want to hear. And in this case, I think this is a time, and I said that in my tweet, go ahead and celebrate all the things that happened in the Trump administration. There's a lot of good things that happened in the Trump administration. Celebrate those things. But now it's like Bob Seger says, it's time to turn the page. Turn the page and let's get behind a fresh candidate that can win in 2024, that can resemble your boldness, your courage, move this country in the right direction. Because just as the midterms were a very mixed bag across the country, very good in Iowa, but a mixed bag across the country, I don't think we can afford to lose in 2024. And I'm afraid too much of the country has made up its mind on Donald Trump, that he is our biggest risk of losing in 2024. That's why I think celebrate what happened, but now let's get behind somebody else, a new generation of leader, and let's see if we can get them to win.
So how do you assess the potentials for 2024?
It's a very deep bench on the Republican side. Now, we know that President Trump has not followed my advice. He's in. And so part of our commitment is to give him a fair and level playing field in the Iowa caucuses. But I think Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is a very strong candidate, probably the most prepared to be president. Mike Pence is a very strong candidate. Nikki Haley, very strong candidate. Obviously, Governor Ron DeSantis, very strong candidate. But then people forget about a guy like Senator Tim Scott, a Governor Christine Noem. There's others. Governor Asa Hutchinson has been in this state a few times. It's a very deep bench. And I think it'll be a robust debate. That being said, Trump benefited greatly in 2016 from a divided field. He could benefit greatly again of a divided field. But winning the primary or getting the nomination is one thing. Being president's another thing. And so I would hope that if it's a divided field, that pretty soon it would come down to a one-on-one or a much smaller field.
Okay, so as you are one of several I've now heard make this case about if Trump is not the best bet, then a big old field in 2024 might not be the way to go, right? So how does a person have the conversation with all of these interested folks about, hey, we want some of you, we don't want all of you?
Well, what we celebrate in this country is our freedom, right? And so anybody's free to run for president of the United States. They can go ahead and do it. We're just saying now, be wise about it as well. So in 2016, I think Kasich and Rubio probably held on too long. If they didn't hold on that long, I think you have Cruz at least taking Trump to convention, and then who knows what happens. In this case, I think for the Iowa caucus,
probably not Cruz this time around. Is that your gut?
Well, I don't know. I heard over the weekend that he may have interest now, renewed interest. And I think the reason he has a renewed interest, he sees a lot of people that are going to get into the race. Some of them former cabinet members who served under Trump. So I think he sees this could be a dicey situation, and coming in second the time before is usually a pretty good launching pad to get to the nomination. But in the Iowa caucuses, we welcome all of them, okay? But part of our job, I think in the Iowa caucuses, I think Jeff Kaufman would agree, is we help narrow that field. And if you can narrow the field, then I think it's going to be an interesting race to the finish.
Will Jeff Kaufman have
What will his, how will some of these other candidates view him? He was so strongly pro-Donald Trump when Trump was president.
He had to be.
And when Trump reelected, and almost emulated some of his speaking style, right? Will campaigns think they're getting a fair shake with the party and with
Well, I
the
think
caucus
that's up to
system?
the party to show that they will get a fair shake. Matter of fact, I think you saw Governor Terry Branstad, Ambassador Terry Branstad, say that he's not given his endorsement to Trump yet. And the reason
that's with one of his boys working for Trump, one of his
yeah,
sons.
but I think what Governor Branstad understands, what Governor Kim Reynolds understands, what I understand, make it a fair and level playing field. And what you're going to see is you're going to see the cream rise to the top. And when that cream rises to the top, you know Donald Trump is going to be one of the top two in the Iowa caucuses. I mean, he's at too deep of support. Who's the one to challenge him? And what I've said in the national media a lot, I believe if Trump gets halted here in Iowa, it's game on to the nomination. If Trump wins Iowa and wins Iowa big, I think he runs the table.
So who's the best bet?
We don't know that yet. And a lot of people say, well, Governor Ron DeSantis. I like Governor Ron DeSantis a lot. He's doing a lot of good things. How he won in Florida, turned Miami-Dade County. His speech, his victory speech was really good. He's got like the perfect family up on stage, so to speak. But I've been around too long, which means I'm old. I remember Rick Perry was the sure bet in 2012. I remember Scott Walker was a sure bet in 2016. Rudolph Giuliani in 2008. And a lot of those guys barely made the Iowa caucuses, if they made the Iowa caucuses. So I think it's too quick to say this is the guy.
How do you vet, without naming names, how many of these folks have you spoken with so far who are thinking?
Oh, I would say it's somewhere between 7 and 10.
Now, of course, you can name names.
Yeah,
But I know you don't want to.
I would say, well, I mean, some of them have been out to our offices.
For sure, yeah. So those are the
and we've
obvious
been
ones.
very public about it. I mean,
Yeah.
so Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's been out to our offices twice. He's been at our events a couple of times. Mike Pence has been out with us a couple of times. Kristi Noem, Tim Scott. And there's others as well, and a lot of them who just communicate, okay?
Sure.
And my goal there too, and I tell them, I said, listen, you got my phone number, you have my email. I will give you as straight up advice as I can, but I'm gonna give it to anybody who calls. It's not gonna be just to you. And frankly, Dave, in this scenario, I would rather get to a point where I don't have to endorse. I've done that a few times. I'd like to let's just let the people of Iowa make their decision on who they're going to choose.
Okay, let's just talk about you specifically. When you have this conversation one-on-one without cameras looking
Sure.
at you, how do you quiz one of these candidates? What kind of stuff do you ask them to see if they have what you're looking for?
Well, really, we go on to basically three things: character, competency, and chemistry. And if they flunk on character, there's no reason to go to the other two, because you need to know, can I trust you? And so what is in their background that you'd say, yes, I can trust them? Competency. Being president of the United States is a big job. So you need to know that they're well prepared. Chemistry is pretty much are you right? I mean, can you unite Americans around a common vision, or is it going to be this constant division? I don't think we're healthy when our neighborhoods are that divided. I don't think we're healthy when our churches are that divided, or our family Thanksgiving lunches are that divided. I think we need to have a president who can unite again, and a president where a mom and a dad, a grandpa and a grandma can point at them and tell their son or grandson or granddaughter or daughter, I'd like to have you grow up to be like him.
Back for the quick six later, but first, a big meeting early next month could decide the fate of Iowa's Democratic caucuses for 2024. We're going to talk about one caucus scenario that would seem to show that you could caucus twice.